Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this presentation titled The Local Education Monitoring Approach, Exploring Government Ownership and Sustainability Success Factors in Northern Nigeria. My name is Isaac Nsukwa and I work for the Education Development Center on a USAID-funded project in Nigeria called the Northern Education Initiative Plus, or simply the Initiative. I am a monitoring, evaluation and assessment practitioner with main interest in building school monitoring and assessment systems. This presentation has been put up together with Dr. Daniel Avan, who is the Senior Monitoring and Evaluation Advisor for the Education Development Center. You may be well aware that school monitoring is a big challenge in most resource-poor countries such as Nigeria. I am thus going to share with you how the initiative has worked with the states of Sokoto and Bauchi in Nigeria to promote school monitoring in a sustainable way. The Northern Education Initiative Plus, the initiative, is a 5-year USAID-funded program promoting access to quality education as well as improving children's reading skills. The initiative employs a system strengthening approach to promoting access to primary education and improving reading skills. The project is being implemented in Bauchi and Sokoto states, targeting both formal and non-formal schools. While Creative Associates International is the prime contractor on this project, the Education Development Center manages implementation of all activities in Sokoto State. Education Development Center is also responsible for managing monitoring, evaluation, assessment, and research functions of the project, as well as the ICT component of the project. So, what is the LEMA? The LEMA stands for the Local Education Monitoring Approach. The approach uses a load quality assurance sampling methodology. The LEMA is not too technical. It is cost-effective and a reliable way for local governments to systematically collect school-level data to inform decision-making. In addition to collecting school-level contextual data, the LEMA also assesses pupils' reading abilities through what we call the Group Administered Literacy Assessments, or simply the GALA. The LEMA was introduced in Sokoto and Bauchi states in March 2018, and this was based on the LEMA Toolkit developed by the RTI International in 2016. It is also important to note that the LEMA is only implemented in formal schools. So, why was the LEMA introduced? Well, findings of the baseline early grade reading assessment, or EGRA, conducted by the initiative in 2016 showed that the majority of early graders could not read a single word in Hausa, which is a language of environment in Sokoto and Bauchi. Hence, there was need to get more comprehensive monitoring data on the situation on the ground. It was, however, evident that state and local government education authorities were unaware of what was happening in schools, and this was largely due to lack of systematic approach to collecting data on school-level indicators. We also noticed that there was ad hoc monitoring that was not visible in strategic planning documents or even in work plans. Monitoring findings were also rarely shared, but we also noticed that there was inadequacy of monitoring tools and instruments. We also noted that very few players were involved in the actual monitoring process, and most of the stakeholders were really unaware of what was happening in terms of school-level data. So, allow me to briefly give you an overview of the LEMA process. LEMA has 4 important phases. These include the planning, the training, the data collection, and the reflection and learning phases. Indicators and data collection instruments are designed during the planning phase. The training phase is concerned with imparting skills on those responsible for administering the instruments and those that will be managing the data. The data collection phase is more concerned with protocols for solicitation of the data from the teachers, head teachers, and pupils, while the reflection and learning phase is concerned about taking action on the findings of the LEMA. This presentation will later detail how each of these phases were implemented to ensure ownership and sustainability of the LEMA. What you are seeing here is an example of the LEMA indicators and also the minimum performance standards. The second column is detailing the indicators, and then the third column is detailing the minimum performance. And this slide just shows an example of the LEMA data collection instrument. This slide is an example of how LEMA results are presented. This is how the results are tabulated. So if you see, for example, if you look at this table, we have the name of the indicator there, and then across the columns we have the local government education authorities, which are the lowest administrative areas for the education sector. So for example, we have the Akareli, Bauchi, Dalazo, Gamawa through to Tolo. And then the last column, the last row that we see here, that shows us how each LGA performed. Where you have an X means that the LGA did not meet the minimum performance standard. Where you have a tick, it means that LGA met the minimum performance standard. The LEMA institutionalization process is mirrored along the LEMA process. A systems approach was taken, ensuring that at each level or during each phase, consideration is given on how the state government will own and sustain the activities. During the planning phase, the state partners took lead in deciding what to monitor and setting benchmarks for each of the indicators. State Universal Basic Education Boards, or SUBEB, were also encouraged to incorporate the LEMA activities in strategic planning documents such as the Medium-Term Sector Strategy, MTSS, and the annual work plans. The initiative ensured inclusiveness of education stakeholders in developing indicators and standards. This was to ensure that there is buy-in from all education stakeholders. During the training phase, the LEMA targeted SUBEB officials. School support officers, SSOs, were trained in paper-based data collection and later in digital data collection. It is important to note that SSOs are responsible for school monitoring and coaching support. This training builds upon their existing responsibilities. The Education Management Information System officers, or EMIS officers, were trained in digitization of data collection instruments, data analysis, and tabulation of the results. The task also builds upon their existing responsibilities. State and LGA officials were trained on how to supervise the entire LEMA and troubleshooting issues as they may be raised by the data collection and tabulation teams. During the data collection phase, data is collected by SSOs with supervision from LGA and state level officials. LGA level supervisors, in collaboration with EMIS officers, tabulate the results, which are then shared with the state SUBEB. A key component of the reflection and learning phase is dissemination of the findings and drawing action plans for addressing the concerns. Dissemination is led by SUBEB and the Ministry of Education. This includes making presentations and facilitating the whole program. The initiative demonstrated how disseminations ought to be implemented during the pilot phase. The initiative, however, continues to provide technical backstopping. Dissemination workshops are held at the state as well as at the LGA levels. This is an example of the LGA level action plans developed by LGA teams during the LEMA LGA level dissemination workshops. What you see under the first column labeled issues represent issues identified under the indicator time on task or pupil attendance. Under the second column, what is marked in bold represents the name of the LGA, and below are the action points agreed by the LGA. So what are some of the outcomes so far? We have noticed that the LEMA findings have been used for promoting evidence-based decision-making. For instance, there was a communique in Sokoto during the first LEMA dissemination where SUBEB directed Education Secretary to take action on the issue of teacher absenteeism and report teachers that constantly absent themselves from school. LEMA has been incorporated into the medium-term sector strategy. This guarantees that the activities are planned and budgeted for. Bauchi State, for instance, has issued a memo to support implementation of 2 LEMA activities. The state has approved a budget of up to 14 million naira to support the activities. Both Bauchi and Sokoto states intend to make the monitoring, evaluation, assessment, and research, or just MEA, technical working group to be permanent structure of the government. The MEA technical working group was instituted by the initiative to support coordination of M&E activities of the initiative and SUBEB at state level. There has been a request from states to support migration from paper-based to digital data collection. States plan to develop dashboards for ease of access to the LEMA results. This is a clear sign that the states see value in the activity. There is also another request from Ministry of Planning and Budgeting in Bauchi to support the scaling up of the LEMA to non-project supported LGAs, upper primary schools and secondary schools. The states believe the LEMA can be applied to secondary school as well. There has been a request for technical support from other states benefiting from the Better Education Service Delivery for All, or BESDA, which is a World Bank initiative. For instance, this includes Gombe and the Yobe states. These states actually would like to implement the LEMA, but they are asking for technical support from the project. Sokoto State fully funded the 4th post-pilot round of LEMA implementation and has also planned to implement the LEMA for 2nd and 3rd term for 2019-2020 academic calendar. So, what might have contributed to these successes? The initiative believed that non-tokenistic engagement with government partners and all stakeholders was key in registering these outcomes. The initiative raised awareness, demonstrated and explained the gap in school-level data, its implications for improving learning outcomes. The initiative further demonstrated through pilot testing how the LEMA was a best alternative in light of the many challenges cited by the SUBEB. There has been continuous capacity building of SSOs, LGO officials, and state-level officials to ensure the state is fully equipped with the skills. Further, the initiative ensured that the right people were trained in the LEMA. This is for the purposes of continuity. The initiative also demonstrated, using government-trained staff by the project, how efficiently LEMA results can be collected and analyzed through piloting a context-appropriate ICT-based data collection and reporting platform for the LEMA. The initiative demonstrated how results can be used at both the state and LGA levels to support informed decision-making. The initiative guided SUBEBs on how successfully to develop sustainability plans to ensure that school monitoring continues to be implemented beyond the life of the project. These are the plans that are presented to SUBEB Chairperson, State Planning Commission, as well as Ministry of Education to ensure inclusion in MTSS and annual work plans. This slide is just a highlight of some notable quotes from state partners. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation.